Okay, so I was listening to the Sam Harris podcast. If you don't know who Sam Harris is, he's an American scientist, neuroscientist maybe even. He's had the Waking Up podcast. I think he got famous with a book about awakening. He's a scientist who likes to look into matters of the spirit. Anyway, so he did a fantastic podcast a few months back about America's descent into racial strife and how we can all take a deep breath and rescue ourselves from this manufactured racial division. And good on Sam Harris for speaking openly. The man is clearly not scared of being deplatformed or cancelled. It's like he holds up one big proud middle finger to the establishment, the politically correct establishment, and says, and? Yeah. And what else about Sam Harris? He looks a lot like Ben Stiller. They're like first degree cousins or brothers, separated at birth. And you'll never see Sam Harris and Ben Stiller in the same room. So, tangent over, Sam Harris was lamenting the chaotic American withdrawal from Afghanistan. The Saigon 2.0. The Kabul bullshit. The Kabul bullshit. And he lamented and said, and then he opened his kind of long podcast with a kind of 4-minute rant, 4-minute moan about the collapse of American power, the impossibility of projecting American power abroad, how America's enemies, ideological enemies, China, Iran, North Korea, are now laughing. He says that, any time over the last 2-3 decades now, China must feel so confident they can retake Taiwan. Now, quick backstory, Taiwan's an island of something like 25 million people. It's where the Chinese imperial palace retreated to when Mao Zedong and the Red Terror swept across China. We can call it the Red Terror without any hyperbole. 60 million dead of starvation, death camps, and killing people who were considered to be middle class or landlords or factory owners. And it was obviously their fault. So Sam Harris goes saying, yeah, the Chinese are probably going to take Taiwan this year or next year. Doesn't look like America can do anything about it. And he was saying, woe is this. And one thing he did get right is he is correct in stating that NATO and American global dominance is a lot better than if, say, for the last 100 years, last 200 years, China had been dominant, or the Soviet Union had been dominant, or a super rich Arab oil state like Saudi Arabia had been dominant and spreading their ideology around the world. Now, I want to give you guys an alternative view to the Moni. And like basically Sam Harris basically said, the American project's finished, the West is finished, and all these freedoms we've enjoyed have been a blip after World War II, a kind of fetishization of the individual freedom of the sovereign soul. But no, I disagree. I'm going to give you the Veitchian view. We're going to present another edict from the Veitch city. Here, we're going to pump some white smoke out of the chimney. There is a new pope in town, Papa Carlos. We're looking down Deansgate, St. Anne's Church. The lovely rector in there is a man named Nigel. He gave me the stained glass tour. We might go and have a look because it's sunny today. So this is the Veitch city edict. Basically, I don't consider the Afghan project, and what I mean by the Afghan project, the last 20 years of American and British, and what was that? Was it called ISAF, International Security Afghan Force? ISAF. Just another word for NATO. I mean, let's look at the fundamentals here. So, America suffered the 9/11 Twin Tower attacks, the plane downed in Pennsylvania, the Pentagon being rammed by a jet, and America had never had any terror attacks. They'd had a regular army of another country attack a naval base. That was probably the biggest thing that had happened to America war-wise. on their shores before 9/11. And 9/11 messed up the American mind, and they were looking for scapegoats. They were the most dominant nation on earth. It had been 10 years since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. So America was on top of the world. Russia had been deconstructing, utilities sold off to oligarchs. It was falling to pieces, corrupt piece of shit. Now America was at the top of its game, and 9/11 happened. So America went in, they went in hard, no lubrication. Within 30 days of the Twin Towers coming down, you had a force of like 250,000 Americans and British descending upon the Taliban, and they bombed the absolute shit out of the Taliban. Taliban raised their ugly head, chop off a few heads of some bad adulterers, and they just get bombed. Taliban blew up some Buddhist statues, they got bombed into the mountains of Pakistan. Taliban giving home to other Saudi billionaires who blew up American embassies. We can certainly pin that on the old Bin Laden. So America went in and took a few weeks with help from a tribe. Sorry, not one tribe, a bunch of tribes up in the north, which were then originally called the Northern Alliance. How good is that, the Northern Alliance? So America kicked out the Taliban. They installed a puppet called Hamid Karzai. He was like a kind of Harvard educated, very westerny, he's a puppet, but he was the stable puppet. What the American project was to bring in democracy, Western values, rule of law, maybe make their constitution a bit more secular so that girls could go to university, women could get jobs, try and unite the country into an Afghan people. Now, the West and America, mostly America, but Britain did quite a lot. Britain paid the sacrifice with lives of young men as well. They, for 20 years and 2 trillion, that's 2,000 billion, 2,000 billion US dollars spent on that nation over 20 years to try and get them into the 21st century, to try and give them a bit of fairness, rule of law. Now it's, the joke goes that if you ever feel like a failure, just remember that America and the West spent 4,000 lives, 2 trillion US dollars, 20 years of regime building and regime change, and they did all that to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. But let's have an alternative view. Let's sit down next to the homeless Jesus, which is quite a harrowing and touching thing, and we know it's Jesus because of the stigmata, or whatever you call it, the holes in his feet. So Taliban massively dominant. Taliban were wiped out, eviscerated within weeks of American bombardment, invasion. Troops on the ground. America had special forces, Marines, regular army, paratroopers, army, navy, air force, allies. They had trainers, they had mercenaries. They were doing everything they can to train up the Afghan army, get them to understand. They did their best. And here's the Veitch view. The Afghan project was not a failure. The Afghan project was somewhere in between failure and success. The great success, it shows that modern secular as in the church and state is separate, modern secular democracies that try and respect the rule of law can wipe out an autocratic, fascist, woman-hating group within weeks. It's not the question. That's not the issue here. Now, the Taliban have been desperate for Afghanistan. They've been wanting to impose their goat-fucking, hillbilly mountain ways on the public big time. And for 20 years they were unable to. They were forced to live out in caves. They were hiding in Pakistan. They had to have a little admin office in Doha in Qatar. And that's one of the reasons why Saudi fell out with Qatar. Let's just have a very quick look at the stained glass. Yeah, I saw the rector, Nigel. So that's one of the reasons Saudi fell out with Qatar. Qatar was doing a lot of support for these strange groups, Hamas, Islamic Jihad. Also, they have offices in Doha, Hamas. So, over the 20 years, America pumped in money, they pumped in weapons, they pumped in education, they pumped in facilities and opportunities for the Afghan people. $2,000 billion spent. Now here's the thing. What's America got out of it? America tried. What America has, what the US military has, what the British military now has, is a lot of experience, battle-hardened soldiers, tactics, tried out tactics, trial and error. How do we fight a irregular insurgency, an irregular guerrilla force on their homeland where they know the territory? How do we do that without losing too many soldiers? They did it. They defeated the Taliban. And here's another great symbol of the West's superiority. And I told you, this is a new and improved Charlie Veitch channel. I'm going to concentrate on the things we're grateful for. The West, the American-led West. And we, as British people, most of my viewers are British, we should be proud of our son, the United States of America. Their Constitution, their Declaration of Independence, it was written in the language of the English and Scottish Enlightenment, the philosophical and scientific enlightenment of the late 1600s, the 1700s, and the 1800s. Hey Tom, so that project that we're still a part of now, my children have been born into, I've been born into, I attended school, university, I've had operations under general anesthetic here in the West, love the NHS. Now let me just explain to you how Afghanistan was not a failure. It proved that America and Britain, as the main Anglo Empire, can literally kick out a government, an illegitimate, psychotic, autocratic, fascist government. And let's not forget, it was the Taliban that shot that UN activist girl. This is a woman now, Malala. You know, the Afghan girl. She studied at Cambridge or Oxford, and she talks about women's rights and education for girls. And as a father of a daughter, of course I agree with Malala. Every girl should have the same opportunity as her brothers. And it's going to be a terrible shame if things go bad again. But for 20 years, guys, we kept the Taliban out of there. For 20 years, we gave the Afghan government, the police force, their army, their infrastructure, their hospitals, their democratic, their governmental administration. We gave it the best chance from the best people on earth to talk about democracy and the rule of law. And get this, even 20 years and $2 trillion later, America's still number one. Britain is still in the top group. We're still relevant. The SAS and the SBS are still the most respected, revered, and feared special forces on the planet. Even the Americans agree. We have battle-hardened soldiers, and there isn't a single bloc. The Chinese Communist Party, Iran, North Korea, even the three of them together, even the four of them with Russia. There's nothing that even that unified bloc of all the ideological adversaries of the West could do. We are too powerful. We are too right compared to them. And to kind of counteract Sam Harris's incorrect conclusion that what we have to look forward now in 2021, 2022 is a Chinese invasion of Taiwan, I don't think so. Most of the world's semiconductors for the West comes from Taiwan. Hey dude, how are you? You're not following me around, are you? No. YouTuber. Sorry? I'm another YouTuber. Do you subscribe to my channel? Yeah. Good man. Take care of yourself.
If you ever follow me, it's Sean, S-E-A-N, and then put space and put Anderson, put 2.
No worries, man. Thank you, I will.
I tell you what, I like watching all your vlogs. I like watching AB. You've got AB, Libri, and what's the other one called? Mark Blackburn.
Oh, Marty Blackburn,
yeah.
Of course. Nice one, mate.
Not
Cheers.
Around here, are they?
No. But I'll see you later. Take care, dude.
Tell them about it as well if you can.
I will do.
Have a nice day.
Take care. Yeah, I thought he was hovering. He was doing a bit of hovering in the background. Turns out he's a fan, a viewer. So good on him. The man's got good taste. Where was I? Yeah, Sam Harris saying Taiwan's going to be invaded by aggressive and powerful and confident Chinese soldiers. No, most of the world's semiconductors that America and the West uses, all of Europe, all of the West, semiconductors, electronics in Taiwan. Taiwan's a massive economy, massive part of the West's economy. And I promise you that if China was going to try and use some American fusion of behind old Joe Biden, Sniffy Joe, being too senile to run the country, they would have done it the day after the American withdrawal, when that Chinook was filmed taking over, when those poor Afghan men were falling off those C-17 Globemaster transport jets. That would have been the day. Now trust me when I say that the Afghan project wasn't a sign of American decline. It was actually a sign of what America can do: throw its balls in, spend decades trying, lose so much money, and still come out relatively unscathed. I'd like to see China try that. I'd like to see Russia try that. And one thing I will say is that having grown up in a Western-led world, it's not going to change on my watch, that's for sure. I don't think it's going to change on my children's watch. And as far as we can still try to respect the rule of law, be fair, maintain a Christian sentimentality and love for the individual as sacred, and not just Christian. I mean, let's expand it a bit to wind up a few people as well in the comment section. Let's call it the Judeo-Christian ethics that we have. There's a fantastic line in the Talmud that says, if you save one man's life, it's as if you've saved every single man on the planet. Now that ties in with the Upanishads from ancient India, saying that Atman, the overall God, Atman, the individual, equals Brahman, the overall God. It's all fractal, it's all metaphors, it's all metaphysics, it's all archetypes. You think that story of Jesus wasn't about you? You're wrong. You think you're not also a son of God? You're wrong. You think you're unable to practice the beautiful things that Jesus preached? You're wrong. You are able, and you shall, and you maybe already are. Anyway, this is Charlie Veitch coming at you from the Ridley Scott alien egg here. Where's Sigourney Weaver when you need her, or Bill Paxton? He'd say, game over, man. And just imagine the face hugger. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.